are in what we put out there. I have no problem being provocative in a discussion, sitting down with a client, talking about the real challenge is, who's going to win the battle for the infotainment revenue in the vehicle.
Right. Okay.
You've got technology providers going after it. The car manufacturers have to enable it. But I just worry that becomes a really provocative thing, and I don't want it to be an NVIDIA position on who's going to win. Or
you need to go.
No, I wanted to ask a question.
Sure.
May I answer one? So you were talking about between 5, 10, and 20 years, the change of what we'll see on the road. In terms of safety, how is the mix of old and new and that phase out? Do you have numbers in terms of how
the industry is trying to sort this out right now, quite frankly. Okay. So don't mind that we're transcribing because we'll pick what we write and don't write. Right. But to me, the reality is there's varying levels of safety, and Europeans are looking at safety at one level, and Germans in particular looking at it yet another level, very careful, very safe, right? Mm-hmm. Other parts of the world are going to think about safety at a different level, and I think what's going to eventually happen is governments are going to step in, and we're going to have some mandated level of safety that's going to be required, but we don't have it yet. Mm-hmm. So there is no sort of rule of law that says you must meet this safety requirement. I think at some point in time, mm-hmm. I can't predict which government will be first, but some government at some point in time is going to mandate a level of safety, and we don't have that yet.
But I wonder if the level of safety is going to increase, because initially you have the old cars, which are not autonomous, mixed in with cars that are. So you have the human-driven component.
Yeah, but the AI has to deal with that. So AI has to be able to deal with, I'm not just driving down the road with other self-driving vehicles. I'm mm-hmm. driving with other vehicles being driven by humans, and it has to be able to react as if a human's in the vehicle. So safety is already accounting for that, mm-hmm. and simulation and testing is running through every possible global driving scenario to be able to do that well. So that piece is being addressed with the AI and the simulation and testing.
Okay. So as you take humans out of the equation over the next 10, 20 years, mm-hmm. does the safety level increase? That's what I'm
Absolutely
wondering.
It will. And
okay.
there's a whole other transformation that's maybe best served for our financial services folks to talk about. Insurance companies, in fact, I'm talking mm-hmm. to one in 2 weeks' time. They're trying to figure out what they do. Because quite frankly, we're going to see accidents reduced to such a level that claims are going to go down 80%, then 90%. Eventually, you're going to see insurance claims go down by 95% or more. And so that whole industry is going to be completely disrupted. And that's a whole other business model transformation that the auto industry is going to completely transform automotive insurance as we know it. You'll still have it, but it's going to look completely different.
So do you have examples of a couple of companies that are doing some interesting things, either by name or in general example?
Well, for self-driving, we have our customers who are making the investments and meeting the challenge. We could use our most recent example of Daimler Bosch selecting us to be able to bring L5 robo-taxis to market that are quite exciting. I think Volkswagen is another one that has done some terrific work. If I think around self-driving, and I think we just refer back to some of our prior press releases rather than me regurgitating all of them. As it relates to AI everywhere, Ford's done some really terrific work in computational fluid dynamics for NASCAR. That's extremely interesting. So let's borrow a few phrases from that to be able to outline. Zenuity is another one that feels that their investment in DGX1s and in pure blade flash storage is enabling them to have a breakthrough AI infrastructure. I think we can borrow from some of those. When I think about smart mobility, it's probably easiest to pick one there's much more public out there with Ford Smart Mobility, where they've created a whole subsidiary around it. Toyota Connected is another example where they've created a whole subsidiary to be able to tackle connected vehicles and smart mobility, and they're doing performing a variety of experiments around multimodal transportation. So I think in the smart mobility space for the time being, Ford and Toyota are probably leading the way. Very interesting. You want to know that there's a transformation underway when lifelong competitors join forces. So Daimler and BMW are joining forces as a joint venture to go after smart mobility and mobility as a service. That tells you everything about how big that market is when companies that have always competed against each other are going to work together to go monetize it. For me, that's a great example of validating just how big of a market this is.
All right. So then the next couple of questions are really, the next question is really advice for salespeople, the way I see it, is, so you've got these companies that have bought from us that you're talking to. Why do they buy, and what are their concerns about not buying? It's really about objection handling as much as anything is. What are the things to look for and the reasons that we resonated? And what are the things that was like, as either signs that you should be going to a different company or, giving them what are the top things, positive and negative?
Yeah, happy to answer this. The externally facing piece, this won't go on. This is more
I mean, we can
might do.
Everything we want out of this, but it was just I added on that. When you said that you saw it as kind of an internal piece for sales reps, I was thinking it's essentially selling advice. What's your selling advice for sales reps about how to engage and when to, the top issues you would come across?
Yeah, so there's several ways that our sales folks need to be thinking about this. Number one, let's start by looking at our own customers we're already working with on the embedded side, the in-vehicle side, right? We have customers that have made buying decisions to work with us on our Drive PX or Drive Xavier and Drive OS. And the first thing a salesperson needs to understand is, have they also invested in our Drive AV and they've asked NVIDIA to build their AI for them? And if the answer to that question is yes, they're truly the best target for simulation testing, because they've said we don't need to build the AI for ourselves, which means all the things you've heard from me about the scale that's required to have the right infrastructure, we're doing for them, right? However, if a customer's invested in our system on chip but has said we've got AI ourselves, then they become a terrific prospect for all the things around the AI infrastructure. The AI supercomputers and DGX, the deep learning frameworks become absolutely critical, and in some way having a perception infrastructure, whether it's NVIDIA's or their own, to be able to deal with the data ingestion, the workflow, and et cetera. And so this may seem really basic, but we absolutely have to assess what kind of a target customer do I have, and what's the better prospect? Is it AI training or is it simulation and testing, right? Based upon how they're investing and what decisions they're making around whether they're going to build the AI for themselves. Now, the reality is we're going to have some customers, Toyota's an example of one that's doing a bit of both. They're asking NVIDIA to build out some of the AI, but they're building some of the AI themselves. Terrific thing for that is they're a prospect for us for the AI infrastructure to do training and for simulation and testing. But at the most basic level, a salesperson has to immediately assess, what do I have in this target customer? And then the nuance of the art of it, let's imagine they're an AI infrastructure customer. What we really have to assess is, do they have the skills and talent? Do they have a large data science team? Are they willing to be an early adopter? Are they committed to meeting their time to market? And are they going to invest early? And we can guide them on the scale that's required. But are they truly going to be fully committed to making the investments that are required to make the time to market? And that's what we have to test for, we have to qualify for, and I say, challenge our customers on. I'm already seeing, if I can just be really transparent, examples where our customers are asking for advice on scaling. We'll provide them the answer, yet they'll invest in small chunks on what they think they can afford right now in the budget. And where I think we really need to be challenging our customers to say, listen, we've shown you a roadmap of the scale that you're going to need to meet your time to market promise. And if you're not investing that way, you're not going to meet your time to market promise. Are you really telling me that you're okay with not meeting your time to market promise? And I think our salespeople are going to have the gumption, if I can, about being able to be provocative with their customer and challenging them in that way. And if we don't, we'll see investments of 20 or 30 DGXs at a time. And then when they realize, oh no, I'm in trouble, they'll have to overinvest. But they'll miss. If you don't invest early enough, you just won't make it in time.
Is there something of a race going on between some of the manufacturers, the leading ones, to get there first?